back, I want you to think about maybe finding a little bit of space through the inside lines of your legs as we begin. So it might be that you're lying in Shavasana and you let your toes really flop out to the sides so that that inner line of your leg is facing up towards the ceiling. If your lower back is uncomfortable with your legs long, maybe use something like a reclined bound angle with the soles of your feet together and the knees out wide. Good. Perfect. So this morning we're going to do a little bit of liver meridian work, but all meridians are paired. There's a yin and a yang counterpart. And so our liver is our yin meridian, right? And the gallbladder is the paired yang meridian. And the liver meridian's kind of on the inside line of the leg. Actually, that's mostly where it is, but it's also up into your rib cage a little bit. It's where the points begin. I learned something during my yin training that was kind of mind-blowing, which is that it's not like the meridians are separate things. It's all one big meridian. But whether it's ascending or descending, the points are what we can identify as like a specific meridian, where the points begin and end. And so liver meridian points start on kind of the middle of the rib cage, just underneath where your lung is, actually, right on your liver area. And then it goes down through your groin, and then into your inner thigh and the inner part of your knee, inner ankle, and finally there are 3 points that are just to the inside of your big toe, in between your big toe and your second toe. So focusing mostly on this one this morning, the liver meridian is all about our ability to be creative. When we think about creativity, we're kind of also thinking about what stifles or blocks creativity. And anger is a big one of them. Anger, dissatisfaction, frustration, hopelessness, despair, those things all kind of block our ability to be at our, the height of our creativity. So thinking for just a moment here about the ways in which you are creative in this world. And I think for many years, I did not consider myself to be a creative person at all. I think I associated it with being able to draw or paint really well, or be like a performance artist or a dancer of some sort. And then I recognized that creativity is just your ability to bring things into this world, things that you want. This kind of power of manifesting. At a certain point in time, I recognized that it's not a solo endeavor either, right? That so much of our creative power comes when we are in community and collaboration with other people. So let's take a little bit of time here to take deep breaths. And as you inhale, imagine that you are breathing in from that space right in between your big toe and second toe, up the inside line of the leg, through the groin, and into those lower ribs. That's the inhale. And then the exhale, you're just breathing back down that line, back down through the groin, through the inner thigh and the knee, calf and ankle, all the way into the foot. And let's trace 10 of these lines here with our breath and with our attention. few more deep breaths here. And then from here, gather your knees up and towards your chest and curl yourself up into a little ball. Bring your head up towards your knees. Finding a little bit of compression in the front plane of your body and that yin plane of your body, and a little bit of openness through the back body. Good. We're going to extend that left leg out nice and long on the mat. Let's take our hands around the back of the right leg, and we're not going to use the strap just yet, but let's warm up our ankles a little bit. So many of the points for this particular meridian are in the legs and in the feet and ankles. By rotating the ankle, you just kind of wake things up a little bit here. And just taking these leisurely rotations of your ankle. Notice your toes. They're gripping or clenching at all. Good. See if your jaw is clenching. Let that go. And finally, your eyebrows too. Really soften them. There are points for our gallbladder meridian along our eyebrows. So it's kind of like pointless to try to do liver meridian work without also acknowledging the gallbladder meridian. And while we're focusing on the lower body and the liver, we also want to focus our attention on the points in the upper body that are associated with the gallbladder. So along the brow, behind the ears, and also where your neck and shoulders meet. So see what you can do there to release any weirdness, soften a bit. Right, and then grab a hold of your strap. Let's wrap the strap around the bottom of your right foot. We're going to take this right leg over to the right here, finding some openness through the inside line of that right leg. And see if you can kind of weight down your left side. Maybe you can take your left hand on top of your left thigh. Again, softening that brow, corners of your eyes. And for a little while, you might even turn your head over to the left and just see how that feels. Good. Let's come back through to the center, raising that right foot up towards the ceiling, and then we'll cross that right ankle over the left knee and take your figure four. And as you find this figure four, we all have like our little rituals that we like to perform here. I know that I generally like to really squeeze my left thigh in towards my chest so I can really feel something through my right sitting bone area. And then maybe a little rock side to side. But you might want to have your left foot on the ground. Or maybe you want to send your left foot up towards the ceiling. Maybe you want to be still. Stay and breathe into this for 15 breaths or so. And a big breath in. Big breath out. And you can just release out of this and unhook that right ankle from the left knee. And maybe for a few moments you want to hang back in your reclined bound angle or constructive rest. Or maybe there's some sort of movement you want to take in the middle, like perhaps a happy baby, or it might be nice to rock along the length of your spine a couple of times, especially if you're feeling like energetic this morning. Yeah. Maybe you want to just rock your knees from side to side. Check in with your jaw. You might take a lazy lion's breath if your jaw is just feeling clenched. Sticking your tongue way out. Let's extend that right leg out nice and long on the mat here. And before grabbing the strap, clasp around the back of that left thigh. And let's rotate the ankle, maybe like 10 or 12 times. Good, a nice leisurely rotation, slowing things down so much that you can really identify sensation through the whole leg. One thing that this practice asks us to do is to move out of autopilot, really like fly our own plane, so to speak. And that starts with really feeling and acknowledging the sensations that come up. And then grab a hold of your strap, bring it up around your left foot, anywhere on the sole is fine. And then let's drop that left leg right over to the left, finding space for the inside line of the leg. Yeah, maybe the foot moves, not too far across, or maybe the foot's close to the floor. There's no wrong answer. It's just really totally dependent on the tensions that you hold in your hip, the way your bones are shaped, and never any goal for how this should look. Just looking for a little bit of sensation here. Yeah, you might turn your head over your right shoulder, if that works for you. And a couple more deep breaths in and out. Good, and let's come on through to the center. We'll cross that left ankle over the right knee, and just take your figure 4 on this side, whatever that looks like this morning. Some mornings mine is like really relaxed. My hands are interlaced behind my head, my right foot's on the floor. Other mornings it's all about finding some deep sensation through that left hip. So just kind of choosing your own path in this pose. And one more deep breath right here. Great, and then let's go ahead and release out of this. For your little bit of movement, whatever that is this morning, just take notice of what's going on in the muscles of your face. It might be nice for you to take your index, middle, and ring finger and just kind of rake them along your forehead. So from the center all the way out to the temples, your index finger massaging along the hairline, your middle finger in the middle of your forehead, and then your ring finger kind of like your ocular ridge here. So just underneath your brow. Good. Cultivating a little bit of clarified perception, massaging these points. Nice. Just a few more deep breaths here. Alrighty, one more big inhale and exhale. And we're gonna rock ourselves along the length of the spine or roll over to sit up. If when you're rocking along the length of the spine, you feel inclined to hold yourself in a boat pose or just gently balance on your sitting bones, it's a thought. Somewhere you could go with this. Good. Then eventually, once we find our seat, let's take a butterfly pose, soles of the feet together. And let's give ourselves like a little liver 1, 2, and 3 point massage. So just take your fingers in between your big toe and your second toe. And all you're gonna do, it's real simple, is just kind of trace a line from that kind of fork between your toes there, all the way up to the ankle. So liver 1, 2, and 3 are down closer to the toes, but I just feel like it's nice to have that movement all the way up to the ankle. And you might even take your thumbs and bring them along the inside line of the foot here as you do that. Good, a few deep breaths. And then from here, let's fold ourselves forward, just to wherever works for you. If you want to keep on pressing into that little space in between your big toe and your second toe, it's a thought. Okay, if you're doing that, you might massage with like a circular motion. To see how that feels, it always feels kind of like, oh my God, when I do that. When I just have that like vertical massage or that like linear massage, it doesn't feel quite the same as when I apply a little bit of that circular motion. But this is a really strong grounding point. And if you have any like tendency towards anxiety or flightiness, this is a really good one to press in on. Good. And if you are folding forward, really let the head drop down and see if you can allow your back to round a little bit. It's okay for it to round. Good. Just another 10 or 15 breaths here. Fold again. And then let's inhale and come on up and out of this and just into your counter pose. I think this morning I'm just going to place my hands behind me and maybe lean back a little bit. And I always like to take the back of my head. This feels good to me. I know it doesn't feel good to everybody. And sometimes massaging like the base of my skull on the muscles of my upper back is magic. Maybe that feels real bad for you, and if so, don't do it. Good. And if you want to use your muscles a little bit more, you can always pick yourself up here too, lifting the hips, rubbing that head back, and sort of activating those gallbladder points, top of the shoulder. Soften your eyes if you've gone here. And then go ahead and sit yourself back down if you have lifted. And we'll just find a wide angle. And I'm thinking we might hold on to this wide angle for a little while today. So if this is really intense in the back lines or the outside lines of your legs, it might be nice to take a couple of blankets and roll them up and place them on your knees. And even blocks are nice here for that. Pillows, whatever you got. And we'll just walk ourselves forward. Maybe in walking yourself forward, you have some things in front of you. Blocks to rest your forearms on, bolster. And just know that if this is like, oh my God, no, this is not okay. You can take this to the wall too and lie down and put your legs up the wall and just allow the legs to splay open. It's stressing the same meridians, the same type of thing. Yeah, Wallian is so good. Nice. And just remembering that this is not a performance-based practice ever. Simply moving into these shapes and observing yourself, layers of yourself. And have a little bit more time here than in our usual time. So another like few minutes, I'm thinking. This is a pose that I have personally found really changes with time. Might not be that like your body shape changes exactly or where your body is in space. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a softening of the breath or a mental softening here. So just do your very best to breathe into your limbs, top of your head. Another 3 or 4 deep breaths here. And then start to bring yourself on up and out of this. And generally, I just like to curl up into a little ball. So you might bring your feet together and wrap your arms around your shins and drop your head down towards your knees. And how about another 5 breaths here in the middle? Kind of emerge here. Come on out of this. We're going to take that left leg out nice and long in front and then cross the right knee over the left knee. And this is a nice place to be here with the nice long leg on the bottom. If you prefer, you might bend that left knee as well and come into your shoelaces pose. And before we fold forward, let's just take the hands behind us and broaden across the collarbones. And just take notice of how the lower body feels here. Again, you might drop your head back and sort of rock it side to side really gently, just for a breath or two. And then we'll just begin to fold ourselves forward into this. So eventually bringing yourself so that your chest is reaching towards that right thigh. Your hands are on the floor, on a bolster, some blocks. And stay here for a few minutes. If you feel so inclined, you might take your left hand onto your inner right ankle. Just put a little bit of pressure and massage there. So it's real simple, real gentle. Whenever I press down on my inner right ankle with my left hand here, I feel it all the way into the outside of the hip. And sometimes even up into my back a little bit. Just allowing yourself to be in this pose. Identify the sensations that come up. And 10 more breaths. You're still pressing down into that ankle. You might release your hand and just let your arms be relaxed. And then start to lift yourself on up and out of this. Let's grab a hold of the right big toe. Yeah, with your right fingers, your right piece fingers. It's so hard when things are crossed over. Like, what is what here? We're just gonna kind of hang here for a moment. Your knee could be bent. Maybe your leg is long. Just sitting up and stretching through that leg. Take a couple big breaths. All right. And then we're just going to come through to center and set that leg down. And we'll cross the left knee. Is that right? No, other way. No, that was right. We're going to do the other side. Yeah, left knee on top. That's correct. All right. Alrighty, let's take a moment here to just kind of get settled into the sitting bone. Sometimes leaning back into it is a really nice way to enforce that connection. And the head dropping back, that tiny bit of upper back massage, base of the skull massage. Good. Eventually bringing yourself back to the center, back forward and folding in on this. Wanted to take that little bit of massage into your left inner ankle. Some thought, you might press your palm into that bone. Do some circular massaging motions around the ankle bone. And then if you're still massaging, go ahead and release that arm and just find some stillness here. And then slowly start to lift yourself on up and out of this. Let's grab a hold of your left big toe with your left index and middle finger and just give it a nice opening here. Take a couple deep breaths. Notice the way your foot feels. Sole, the inner and outer ankle, inner and outer knee, hip. Right, and then we're going to set that foot back down and find our bellies. As you find your belly, yeah, I don't think we're going to stand up even once. Yay! As you find your belly, we're just going to take this like pre-frog situation, which is us lying down and kind of taking your knees out, maybe as wide as your mat or a little wider if they'll go there. And then just allow your toes to kind of point out to the sides and set your head down. So it's kind of like a starfish pose, but on your belly. Your arms could be out long, or maybe you just want to have your hands stacked on your head. And just a couple more breaths. If your head is turned to one side, you can turn it on over to the other side. And then we're gonna try to take this and blend it with a Sphinx pose. So you might get here, you might get up in your elbows and notice something is not okay in your lower back or your hips. And if that's the case, definitely just bring your legs towards each other again, back together. Even if this is all right, then stay with it. And let's drop that head down. Once again, just finding some release through the upper back, shoulders, tops of the shoulders where the gallbladder points live. Really let your brow soften, your eyes soften. Maybe another 7 to 10 breaths here. And then from here, let's snuggle those legs back together. Shake the hips from side to side. Set yourself down, your head to the floor, the backs of your hands. And let's take a half frog pose. We're going to bring that left knee up towards the left side of the chest. And it might be nice to stick around with your knee bent the whole time. If you want to extend that left leg out long, that's a thought too. Just taking some time here. Maybe another 7 breaths here, as big as you can make them, but easy going too.
start to take that left leg nice and long behind you again. Here it might make sense to come up into another Sphinx pose, or maybe you just want to rock your lower legs from side to side in like a bit of a circle or an arc. Maybe you're doing both of those things at the same time. Perfect. And then go ahead and set those legs back down if they're moving all around. And we'll take the right knee out towards the right side. And maybe even extend the leg long if that works in the hip. And the inner line of the leg touching down towards the floor. Good. 7 more breaths. Great. Now start to take that right leg nice and long behind you. And I'm thinking it might be a good time to come back into a child's pose. Maybe you want to find hands and knees and move the spine around a little bit in some cats and cows. If you come to child's pose, rock your head from side to side on the mat. Of your hands, yeah, if you're on hands and knees, you know what to do, any intuitive movements. Good. Ooh, yeah, I see a little bit of crown pressure activation. If you're in your child's, you might rock forward onto the top of your head, being really super mindful of the neck and how it feels if you choose to do that. Yeah, just to kind of activate that crown point. I found that that's a really nice way to relieve pressure, tension in the scalp. And just another 5 breaths or so in your child's pose. And then start to lift yourself up and out of your child's pose. Let's take a little bit of time to be really thoughtful and deliberate about how we set ourselves up for our frog pose. Because ideally we don't want this to be like excruciating and unsustainable and wildly uncomfortable. We kind of wanted this to feel nice if possible. I don't know, maybe. One thing that I really like to do is take blankets underneath my knees and ankles. So blankets that are opened up like this, or just whatever you have around you. You might even just like wad up a t-shirt and place it underneath whatever's touching the ground. So I have one of these on either side. And I'm going to take a bolster out in front of me, and again, this could be like a pillow or even a couple of blocks underneath the pillow. So the bolster out in front of me, and I was playing around with this during teacher training yesterday and found that I really enjoy having the block under my chest on top of the bolster. So yeah, just get some things. And then we're going to take the knees out wide, kind of like we did before with our legs out long, but this time our knees are going to be bent. Right? And your feet could be at like 90 degrees, or your ankles could be at 90 degrees from your knees, or maybe your feet are in a little closer, just depending on what you have going on. I'm a big fan of having my lower belly supported here so it doesn't feel like my hips are just kind of like floating in space in a really uncomfortable way. I think we're going to aim to hold on to this one just for 3 minutes or so today. If this is not working, you can always return to your belly and take a Sphinx pose too. The physical sensations. Notice what's holding you here, what's holding you up. Another 5 deep breaths. Coming out of this is going to be your own little, your own battle. Sometimes coming forward is the best. Sometimes you just find a way to send those legs behind you. But eventually we're going to find our backs. Yeah, maybe you're stretching back into a downward facing dog, or even taking a moment for something like a high plank or a forearm plank, just to help kind of strengthen those muscles that you spent some time
stretching and releasing. Yeah, and finding your back will probably feel kind of nice. We're just gonna take a minute on each side to twist. So knees can drop in one direction for 5 breaths or so. And then in the other direction for 5 breaths or so. And as you find your twist, place a little bit of focus on the way the inner ankles feel as they touch each other, if they are indeed touching. And a little bit of emphasis on the way the lower ribs feel as well. And sending the breath down low into the belly. Breath movement spreading out. Have not yet switched to the other side, make your move. Find that twist. Deepen your breath. Let it be as full as it can be here. When I think about what it means for me to take a deep breath, it's kind of this idea of clearing out stagnation. Kind of stirring things up a little bit. Moving things around. Inviting in what's new and letting go of what is not needed anymore. A few more breaths in your twist. And then coming on out of this, just take your final shape, and yeah, maybe you want it to be a reclined bound angle again. If you went there before, perhaps you want to send your legs up a wall or your couch. Shavasana, constructive rest, seated meditation. Breaths as big and full as they can possibly be. Breathing deeply into the possibility of what could be. Just allowing yourself to loosen the grip on any frustrations that you might hold. It doesn't mean that it just goes away, right? But maybe you just hold it a little bit more gently. Take it a little less seriously just for right now.
more big inhales and exhales in this final shape. Maybe bringing into your mind just an idea of how you want to move through your day. Maybe you want to go within and reach out. Maybe if you want to be quiet and loud. Knowing that there's never a wrong answer here, just what's right for you on this particular day. Yeah, good. And then at your own pace, you take some small movements, which always turn into something bigger, right? And those larger movements eventually turning into you finding yourself in a seated position. So let's just take a moment and look at each other. Hi, everybody. Yay. Oh, all right. Let's take a deep breath in and just bring our hands onto our heart, kind of inflating our upper body a little bit, broadening those collarbones. And as you exhale, drop your head down towards your hands and your heart, honoring this time you spent taking care of yourself and honoring each other's journey in that as well. You're all awesome. Yay. Namaste. Thanks for being here this morning.